I think looking back to the last 8 years or so, we can say that we have managed this relationship quite effectively and most of the time in a constructive manner. We do have areas of cooperation, and I think both sides have done our best to expand and deepen our cooperation. At the same time, we have learned to manage the differences effectively and pragmatically and constructively.
In many respects, the President-elect Donald Trump is kind of a wild card, not just for China, but for the United States. I don't think any of us have ever seen a politician quite like him. He takes a phone call from Tsai Ing-wen, and that's not just something that raises alarm bells in China. You hear a lot of people who've been involved in foreign policy here in the United States who were surprised at that. His tweets about the drone, very inflammatory. There's been other things that we've seen as he's a president-elect. Are you concerned about that?
You see, today's world is changing very fast in many ways. So you do have new styles, new personalities, and maybe new development. Some of them could be unprecedented. But I think for our relationship, for the relations between China and the United States, I think it is determined by the larger common interest, by the major trends in the world. That is, in today's world, the major countries have to work with each other to deal with so many challenges, economic challenges, financial challenges, and also security challenges. That is the larger mutual needs and common interests that will bring China and the United States together and build a strong and a stable relationship.
But as a personality, he's so different from his predecessors. How does that change how you go about doing your job, or does it?
We have to learn new tricks, of course. We have to learn new ways of dealing with the new people. And I think this happens all the time, all over the world. You have new leaders, you have new government, you have new issues, and you have new opportunities. So the key is to seize opportunities and to confront the challenges together, and hopefully to turn the challenges into opportunities.
New people, he's developing a team, and I guess one would use that as tea leaves to try and anticipate what kind of administration you're going to see. One of the names that surfaced that's going to be an advisor to him, Peter Navarro, very anti-China rhetoric coming from him, this documentary, Death by China. But then you see the ambassador that he's chosen, Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, who has a good relationship with President Xi Jinping. It almost seems like there's two messages being sent. Do you read anything into that?
I think the foreign policy team of any American president, their responsibility is to represent and defend American interests. So we look at the policies, maybe more than the individuals. And I certainly don't want to put label on any person. And I have met both of the people you just mentioned. At least I think I could work with them.
South China Sea, as I said earlier, there's areas of friction between the United States and China. It seems that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like in many respects things are improving in terms of relations in the South China Sea. If the president comes in with an aggressive tone, how does that change the dynamic?
The issue of South China Sea is a matter of territorial and maritime disputes. In other words, this is not a geostrategic rivalry between any great powers. This should not be seen as such. And it is certainly not a dispute between China and the United States, because the United States has no territorial claims in South China Sea. As for the disputes between China and some other Asian countries, we are working together to develop a code of conduct, and we are working together to manage the differences in a very constructive way. So for the last few months or so, the situation is developing in the right direction, in a very pragmatic and a constructive manner. I hope this momentum will continue. And everybody else should do everything possible to help us to move the issue in this direction.
I spoke to an American economist in New York on Wall Street yesterday who's concerned about the possibility of a trade war. And of course, there's been these accusations that China's siphoning away jobs that would be here in the United States. There's these threats of increase in tariffs. What about that area of the relationship? Is it a matter of concern?
I don't think anyone could really benefit from a trade war, especially a trade war between China and the United States, the two largest economies in the world. It will only be very damaging to ourselves and it will hurt the global economy. As for the shifting of jobs, both within national borders and across national borders, this is mainly driven by the process of globalization, the need to optimize allocation of resources. And this is also made possible by the application of new technologies. Some of the jobs may move away, some of the jobs may just have been eliminated by technology. I think all governments, including our two governments, have to understand this issue in a more sophisticated manner and try to bring about social and economic policies that will help more people to be benefited from such economic and technological progress. But a trade war would not serve that purpose. Higher protectionist barriers would only make things even worse.
You mentioned new technology. When I entered this field, this was the way people communicated, in newspaper and radio, television. This new president coming in uses Twitter quite a lot to get his message across. What about his usage of social media and his method of conveying his message? I mean, they have to be very succinct and a lot of times they're very pointed.
I think it's up to the American government to decide what means would be most effective to elaborate and to indicate its policies. We will look at the policy. We will look at the substance more than the means.
So are the tweets posturing or are you concerned that they might be policy?
Well, we'll see. Once the new administration is in office, then we'll have a clear understanding or clearer picture of its policies.
And the U.S. and China working on climate change, some of these other issues, how important, as you look at all these hotspots around the world, how important is it that these two major powers work together to try and alleviate some of the tensions? And if there's friction, what does it do to the whole global environment?
I think that is a very important question, because both our countries are concerned about the kind of a chaotic situation in many parts of the world. And we are confronted with threats of international terrorism and instability in parts of the world, and some of the ongoing conflicts or some of the hotspot issues like the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula and elsewhere. So it's quite clear that China and the United States will have to work together to deal with these issues. If we can work together on these issues, the result would be much better and will serve our mutual interests. If we have confrontation with each other, I think it will only make the world a much worse place to live.
Do you see this dynamic which is developing where it seems as though Donald Trump wants to make overtures towards Russian President Vladimir Putin and maybe have a closer relationship there, where that wasn't the case during the Obama administration? How does that change the dynamic between Russia, the U.S., and China, or does it have any impact at all?
Would welcome an improvement of a relation between between the United States and Russia. And between China and Russia, we have a very strong collaborative partnership. And we have every reason to believe that this partnership will continue to grow and will be stronger in the future. And we certainly look forward to more cooperation between China and Russia. But we do hope that Russia's relation with the United States or the European country will be much better than now.
And as we enter a new year, are you optimistic as you look at 2017?
Generally speaking, I'm optimistic. I guess we, the human race, we should and we must have the wisdom and vision to manage this world of ours in a very effective way.
Do you think that the Chinese approach, in terms of foreign relations and kind of the machinery in a more measured fashion, and that perhaps the media is just kind of hanging on every tweet and jumping around, whereas you're kind of looking at this as like, look, the machine moves forward. We're going to maybe have some hiccups here or there, but we can make this thing work?
For Chinese, our philosophy is to always try to have the whole big picture in mind, try to understand everything in the interrelationship. So never to make a very quick response to anything. You have to understand the cause behind these new developments. You have to keep in mind your ultimate goal and what is your larger interest. And you have to deal with all these specific cases in a more sophisticated and comprehensive way.